we're going to get started talking about learning campaigns. There are two kinds of learning campaigns that I think about. One is, when you're really creating a learning ecosystem, and we're going to touch on that a little bit, but really we've got a little bit of a sales slant that we're going to be getting into today. My name is Amy Lou Abernethy, and I'm the president and chief learning strategist at AMP Creative, where we design and develop learning experiences for enterprise companies. And the companies for whom we design these learning experiences, I'm sure experience a lot of the frustrations that you might when you are launching learning into your ecosystem. So we'll be able to get into that a little bit today. And I've got Matt here with me. You want to say hi, Matt?
Hello, everybody. Happy to be
And
here.
introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Matt Mobley. I work with Callus Group, and I am a technical trainer and instructional designer.
And Matt is here. He's going to be keeping an eye on those chats as they go in case I miss something.
That's
And
right.
he's here to support and help out. So thanks for being here, Matt.
Yeah, you bet.
So today we're going to talk about, what is it when I'm talking about a campaign? We're going to talk about something I like to call the virtuous circle. I like things that are virtuous circles. Who it's for, who we're creating campaigns for, and then we're going to have an opportunity for you to kind of get a little jump start on creating a campaign for yourself. So I'm going to move a couple of things out of the way here, juggle all of my little panels and panes that are going on. Awesome. Okay, so the learning campaign. I want you to think of a learning experience that you created, or one that you were a part of, or maybe one that you want to create, okay? I want you to imagine that you've done your analysis. You've figured out the learning outcomes that are going to get your learners from the world that is to the world that could be, where things are better. You've gotten sign-offs from the stakeholders, from the subject matter experts. You've completely crafted the learning experience. And now in chat, I want to know, what did you create? Like, what kind of modality was it? What did you make? And now I'm seeing nothing in chat. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, some AR. All right. Augmented reality. Learning through play. Mandy's going to create something where people learn through play. Virtual onboarding, videos, a white paper for someone to download. Excellent. I love the diversity of all of these different types of modalities. So this is your thing that you created. And I want you to keep that in mind as we work forward. So let's say you've launched this. Okay, awesome. It's done. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. And here's what happens. You don't get butts in seats, or for something like learning through play, you don't get engagement. Okay, this awesome experience that you made that's there in the ecosystem that's going to benefit the learners who really need it, they just aren't interacting with it. So you've got some little interaction buttons. You've got a yes, no, go slower, go faster. I'd love to see a little check mark from those of you who have had this happen before. You created something fantastic and there's just no engagement from it. Is anybody? Yeah, Kirsten says it's happened. Sarah and Shannon are like, oh yeah, I've felt that pain before. All right, Bethany and Betty, a lot of us have done there. Yep, been there, done that. All right, you don't get engagement. So that is what we're talking about today. We're talking about creating a marketing campaign. And since marketing can be kind of a interesting word for people to get into if they're in L&D, I'm calling it a learning campaign. Yeah, Matt's given us a little bit of information here. Oh, Chris, thank you, Chris. If you click on the participant icon, you can see those yes, no icons. But people talking about this in chat is also working. So thank you, Chris, for that, that guidance. But yeah, Matt's saying made a whole website for an internal training and 40 people used it. Oh, I know. I feel you so much too. So I don't know if we've got a lot of folks in here who have spent any time in marketing. There's something in marketing that is called the sales funnel. I don't know if you have any familiarity with this. I see that Karen Savage is in the audience, and I remember when Karen and I were sitting in a room and somebody described the sales funnel to us for the first time, and we'd never heard of it before. Now it seems like something that I'm so hyper aware of. Yeah, the sales funnel. Adrian says, "Oh, that's my old friend." So, Adrian, maybe you were in marketing. So, I'm not going to go through exactly what the sales funnel is. Suffice it to say that when you are being marketed to, you go from a general marketing message, like a branding message, to when you start to interact with something, then you start to get more detailed messages. And of course, digitally online, you've experienced that you go and you're thinking about a pair of shoes or something like that, and then everywhere you are on the online, this ad for that pair of shoes is like following you. So that's when you've been remarketed and you're being squeezed down that sales funnel until you convert. You come out the end of it like a piece of sausage. You convert and hopefully you become a loyal customer. So we're not going to use this model. Okay. I do think of it as being kind of like squeezed, through an esophagus of something. What I like to use, feels just a lot better to me, is the virtuous cycle of the learning ecosystem, and to use marketing along that learning ecosystem. The next slide I'm going to show you is not very pretty. I did not have somebody from my design team help me with this, but I made it because I want to kind of describe this virtuous circle. So here's my unpretty slide, and I'll tell you what the first part of this virtual cycle is. The first part is awareness, pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to go deeper in just a bit. And then from awareness, you get into engagement. From engagement, taking action. And then last of all, advocacy. So from awareness, engagement, action, advocacy, and then around and around again, creating a virtuous circle. And I'm going to dig into it and tell you a little bit more about each of these stages in the learning ecosystem and how you can engage your learners for more engagement on their part with your learning experience. But before we get into this, what I want to talk about really quickly is who this campaign is for. So, who do you think we're making this campaign for? Answer in chat. Who do you think this is for? Jennifer, you get a gold star. And Chris does too. Okay, we've got all kinds of folks, from learners to audiences, the end user. It benefits everyone. That's another reason why it's so virtuous, right? But I want us to really be focused on learner-centered design, because that's when this becomes a really virtuous cycle. And I'll talk more about what I mean by that as we go through. But if you keep your learners at the center when you consider them becoming aware of a gap and a solution, them becoming engaged with the learning material that you created, then putting that into action, and then becoming advocates of the learning experience, when you make sure it's all for the learners, totally other people will benefit, no doubt about it, but it's going to improve the learning experience and make it more and more of something that serves their needs. So learner-centered design is the name of the game. And for our workshop today, well, let's talk about the learning campaign goals. So in chat, what kind of goals might you have with a campaign of awareness, getting engagement and action and advocacy? Promotion of a new program. Chris is saying, what's in it for me? So how people can understand the benefits of it, to sell more things, clicks and open rates. They're all, why we should do this. There are all sorts of learning campaign goals, and some of them can be really sophisticated. When you consider a really sophisticated company with a lot of different information coming and going at people at all times, an L&D department might have some real top level, sort of level 4 goals that are business goals, and that one learning product or one learning unit or even campaign wouldn't move a needle on. But they might have goals that over this half or this year, we're really going to move this one particular metric that's company wide. So a learning campaign can have like level 4 goals, level 3, 2, 1 goals. If you think about Kirkpatrick level and kind of the sophistication of those different goals, you can come up with really complicated learning campaigns and really sophisticated and nuanced ones. And I recommend that. I'm all about having those kinds of metrics that you're changing. But we're not going to get into that. We have now 40 minutes left together, a little more, 45 minutes left together. So we're going to, for our workshop today, really focus on enrollment numbers, engagement, really focus on just getting people to interact with this thing that we've built. And that's kind of going to be our goal that we keep in mind, just to keep it simple. But yeah, as you can see from a lot of these great answers in chat, we've got a lot of ways that we could use this. Okay, so we've got a worksheet for you. I'm glad that this is written on here because I knew I'd forget to talk about it. Matt, can you tell folks how they might be able to get that worksheet?
Yes, absolutely. So if all of you that are in the chat, I went ahead and actually uploaded a document for you. It's a PDF, and you should now be able to open it. It is called Learning Campaign Worksheet. So let me know if you're not able to open it or download it, but it is there and ready for all of you.
Okay, and I'd like to give everyone a moment. Where's it located? Asks Julie.
Yeah, it should be right in the chat.
Yeah, so Julie, do you see right above, and what chat is it in? So
that's odd.
I know. So this is the chat that I see it up here, Matt. Do people not see it in the chat thread? Can't see it. Unable
so if
to.
it's on the chat thread,
it doesn't show. Okay. So what other opportunities do we have to send this to folks?
So we can certainly make this available.
Jackie says that Jackie got it.
Whoa, interesting.
How did you get it, Jackie? Can you turn on your...
Tell us your secrets, Jackie.
This is Jackie Bowman.
Okay.
Oh, she says she downloaded it from the program page.
That's how I downloaded it too.
Yeah, if you exit full screen, you can download it below the session description.
Okay, the file is available at the bottom of the session. And then Robert says, I clicked into the file that Matt sent in chat and then clicked it again. Does everyone see that that file in the chat stream? Chris uploaded it again.
Can you put it back in there?
It is in there if you scroll up. Oh, and then, wait, and then Helly has given us a link. Thank you, Helly. Does everyone see that link? And so did Janita.
And just to kind of go through this one more time. So for all of you that are still on the Learning Palooza page for FeedLoop, you'll notice if you scroll down below the video, you're going to notice that you see a header that says speakers, a header for description, and then a header for files. Directly below that is the Learning Campaign Worksheet.
Awesome. So somebody say in chat if they're just not able to get that. We've got time. I built in a little time to figure this stuff out, folks. So I just want to make sure that everyone gets it. It looks something. It looks something like this. I don't know if you can. I don't see a thumbnail of what I look like, but are you seeing kind of what that looks like, Matt?
Yeah, I'm seeing it, and it sounds like people are now finding it, so that's great.
They can see it. Okay, wonderful. So there are a lot of different ways that you can use this worksheet. You can, it's got PDF form fields, so you can kind of make some notes right there on it. If you want to print it out really quickly and snatch it off your printer, you could scribble on it. But I want to make sure that people can kind of refer to it as we go through what we're going to do today. And the first thing I want you to do is think back about that experience or product that you were imagining earlier that you wrote in the chat. What was it? And write it in the blank at the top of the worksheet so that you can have a focus for this hypothetical campaign. If you didn't type in anything, think of something now, something that you want to promote to your learners, a learning product, a learning experience, a workshop, a white paper, whatever it might be. Okay? And then we're going to go forward. We're going to talk about awareness. Okay, so the goal of the awareness part of your campaign is to promote the learning opportunity through messaging that addresses learner needs. So specific pain points, gaps in their understanding, that's what you really want to use for your messaging. And there are a couple of things that you might be making them aware of at this point in time. They might not know that they have a gap. So just saying that you've got this great white paper or this really fun interactive game or a series of videos so that they can learn fill in the blank, it might not be enough. You might need to help them. You might need to reveal that gap for them. So that's where you can get creative with your messaging. So what I want you to do, let me click into this, is on your worksheet, and you can also say it in the chat if you want to share, think about what the learner is saying, thinking, feeling, or doing at this point in awareness. Something that's going to give you insight into what you need to do, what your task needs to be here. And I do want you to make some answers on the worksheet, but I'm also curious what some folks are putting in there. Okay, Jennifer says they're feeling uncertainty. Okay, feeling a little off balance. That's not a bad thing when you have an answer for them, right? Mandy says they might be avoiding doing something hard, right? You've got a real marketing case there on your hands, Mandy. If it's something they want to avoid doing, you might need to think of messaging that makes that work somehow appealing or sells the benefit of that work that they need to do. Feeling too busy. That is amazing, right? And that's often a challenge that we feel. How can we let them know that we understand they have little time and we've designed something that will actually help them gain back time? And what do you do when that's not the case? What do you do when people have no time but have to devote time to something, right? That's when you really get to get to roll up your sleeves and really understand, like, are we marketing maybe to people's managers on why they need to make time for their teams? All right, so make a few notes about what the learner's thinking, feeling, or doing. And you don't have to get into your task right now, like what you're going to do, but I want you to look at that column that says channel. Where does the learner see it? So who might want to let us know, what do I mean by channel? Who knows what I mean when I say on the worksheet channel? A communications vehicle, says Trish. Anybody else have a thought? Yeah, communication channel where the learner is seeing the information, right? And that's going to be super different for everyone. In every company, it's going to be different. But I want us to get really creative about what we consider a channel. Something that comes to mind is, utilizing the space in a bathroom stall, maybe, where you can put up some great fun information about this particular product and why they might, if they've got a couple of minutes, maybe they can open up their phone right there and get on that micro learn. Who knows? Think about, place or space, says Malika, and I love that. Places or spaces. And now, so many of us have had all our places taken away, right? Like, you're not going to find a company bathroom stall where a lot of people are spending time these days. For most companies, people are working remotely or working less on site. So you might think about team meetings and getting managers information to distribute, or just all sorts of channels. But jot down a couple of channels that you have to help learners become aware. And we're going to spend more time on this worksheet. I just kind of want to get people, and I've got lots of great ideas are coming up here, from text alerts to Zoom backgrounds. I love the way people are thinking. So steal some ideas here, folks, because these are really great. Oh, and Matt, didn't you say that we were going to be able to download the transcript? Is that accurate?
Sure is. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll be able to download the chat transcript.
And share that later?
You bet. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, that's great. That's excellent. All right, so depending on what channels you have available, just copy some of these ideas down and we'll keep those in mind as we move forward. So a lot of people would think about the campaign and they're really going to focus on awareness. And that might be kind of where they stop. Like, all people need to know is that this is aware and how to get there, and then we're going to be done with this. But I also want us to consider every part of this campaign, because this is where it becomes like this really virtuous circle. So the goal of engagement is to deliver those experiences. They bridge the gap between what the learner knows and what the learner needs to know in order to meet some kind of goal. It's delivering that ongoing, education. That reinforcement can also be part of this. So if you have an e-learn or a class or an event that's like bound by time, you might start to push outside of that and continue to deliver like this ongoing drip or sort of reinforcements along the way, and that might become part of this campaign. This is also a really important part of your campaign for you to think about, because this is where you have an opportunity to gain intelligence about what you use for your campaign. And I know you're like, well, how am I going to get them there if they're not aware of it? But a lot of you might do pilots or focus groups when you're developing your learning product. And this is where you can find out how people feel about it. What are the benefits to them? So your tactics might be, surveys or interviews to find out what people say about the experience. It's a place where you can get really creative again, taking photos of people at play or getting some video footage of it, screenshots of it. Those sorts of things can happen during this engagement section. So let's think of this as part of our campaign. Awesome. Any questions about this part before I move on? And what I'm going to do is kind of overview each of the sections, and then we're going to split up into our groups and have some time to really flesh these out. So does anybody have any questions about the engagement part of it before I move on? I'm looking at the chat. And also, there aren't so many of us. Okay, Chris says, so by engagement, you mean the things you're doing while they're learning to keep them engaged? That's a really good question, Chris. I'm not thinking of our learning campaign, of the design of our learning product as part of our learning campaign, although you certainly can. I'm thinking about, while they're experiencing this learning product, what can you be doing that's part of this, ad campaign, this learning campaign, to fuel the rest of it? What intelligence might you be getting from them? What assets might you be gathering so that you can continue this learning campaign kind of around? But you brought up a really good point, which is, these are also the sections of like a learning ecosystem, right? These two things, there's the learning ecosystem that you build, and then there's the marketing that you kind of layer on top of it. So the two things are intertwined, and you should certainly design your learning experience to be selling itself at every turn to your learners, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so Adrian said, like, you could get quotes from people. Absolutely. Quotes from your pilot about how they thought it was useful. Yeah, so you can use all of these things as marketing assets or intelligence to kind of, yeah, and Adrian says, awesome. Okay, good deal. Thumbs up. And TJ said, love to get people sharing what they're loving about it so far. I think that's what you mean by that, TJ. I didn't know if you were requesting people tell us what they're loving about this workshop, but that's always cool too. Okay, great. So let's move from engagement and go on to our next part of our campaign. Oh, there was an action here to answer on your your worksheet. What are you doing to align your campaign with the goals? So you might be jotting some notes down. Again, you're going to have time in your breakout group to really dig into all these things. All right, so action. The goal when it comes, yeah, TJ, thank you. Loving the workshop too, but yes, talking about the engagement piece. Thank you. I'll take little pats on the back, so I appreciate that. So the goal of this part of action is this is where learners actually apply or implement their new skills. And we want to promote, the goal of this stage is to promote the implementation of new skills. So one of the things that you have to get really wily here. You want to promote implementation of new skills, and you want to catch them when they do implement these new skills. So when I say, and those are two different parts of it really, but when I say that you want to catch people implementing new behaviors or skills, what can you do for your product that you're thinking about, your learning product? How might you be able to catch them in the act of actually doing it? Mandy says you can give them badges. Yeah. You can award them when they do something. But how do you see it? How do you find out if they are doing the thing? That's the part that, if you really think about here, can be kind of an interesting problem to solve. You can engage coaches and managers earlier before the launch to say, like, be looking out for these behaviors, right? Chris is saying you can observe them, ask peers or managers to, kind of brag about what's going on. You could do an audit, observational checklists, and having peers catch the behavior. So you can actually create like a really interesting, part of the campaign where you are saying, like, let's reward one another for engaging in this, because that puts everyone's radar up. And it gets people really looking to promote this action. And you can prompt them too. Let's see, Elizabeth says, most of our clients are business lever driven. Okay, so when we're rolling out our learning, we really watch those metrics. They like to see those metrics change. I like them. I like that. And Julie says, ask them to report on how they're using it. Yes, so self-reporting. Every time you ask them, that triggers like, oh yeah, I need to be doing that. And TJ is saying you could create a channel where we can get people excited, a chat environment, where they might be talking about these things. So you can also consider in this section prompting them. Like, how might we have prompts like in a tool that they might use or in their environment? And Trisha's saying you can have surveys and quizzes. Absolutely. You could, things like stickers, a sticker that they might put someplace on a notebook, like an environmental prompt, or, water bottles, those sorts of things that trigger like a memory of a certain behavior to your learners can also be used in this part of the campaign. So we want to think about, like, where does the learner put the new learning into action? And it could be in a tool, and you could have a prompt happen right there. What opportunities do you have to prompt that action in the environment or to reward action in the moment? You might want to consider, unique channels. People were saying their manager, their team members. Chris is saying ice cream trucks. I'd love that. You might think of a slide for a weekly team meeting where employees can brag to each other about what they've done themselves or seen other people on their team do. So I have a little example written here because this is a part where I think you can get really, it's really that behavioral reward, right? That you put this into action and you're going to get a little something. In a campaign I was involved with recently, the goal of the campaign was to increase self-reporting of certain actions. So basically, employees of this company, they were supposed to get comms approval for their speaking engagements, but they didn't know that they were supposed to do that. Even when they did know, they might have thought it would be a hassle. There was no way to sort of make sure people did this. There was no gatekeeping at all. So for awareness, we let them know that they would get comms help with crafting a better presentation. That was one of the little carrots that we gave them. We also said, hey, this is a way to get more visibility within the company. When we know you're doing this, we can promote it internally and really amplify your visibility. And with engagement, when people became engaged with the program, it was that virtuous circle. Like, we found out why they didn't want to do it. We made it a benefit to them. And then for action, we made the tool itself a reward. So when they submitted for approval, a fun little animation would build, and then as they kind of went through the approval chain, that would change and become more complicated. They'd see a little dance or something, and that we got so much great feedback on that. So it can be really simple things. And Julie is saying, let's make it routine within team meetings to share wins and epic fails. I love that. Lessons learned. It requires the manager or a change champion support. So that's absolutely true. But yeah, action can be a really fun place to reinforce this campaign. Alrighty, so yeah, we talked about this, prompting new behaviors and skills. And the last part of our virtuous circle is advocacy. And this is where you get your fans, your learning fans, to become ambassadors. And the goal here is to develop program ambassadors, as well as you might be able to develop content creators and contributors, depending on what your product is, what your learning ecosystem is. But think about, like, you can have mentoring programs, coaching opportunities for people to feed into. You can get testimonials from folks. And those were mentioned earlier in that engagement part, but this is where you bring that advocacy back into your ecosystem. They can get, ask for engagement maybe in social media learning groups. And this is where, when I was talking about you need to make this centered on the learner, this is where that virtuousness starts to happen also. If you can't get learners to advocate for the experience, then the experience itself, the design itself, needs work. So that's really great feedback. But if you can have eager advocates, sometimes you have eager advocates, but you don't really have a channel to feed them into. So, that's what you might consider when you're filling out your worksheet for advocacy. What are those channels? How might you make that an opportunity? So, yeah, just answer in chat, how might you create advocates for learners for your product that you're thinking about? What are some ideas that you came up with or that you think of right now? Trisha's saying it's really important to make it easy for them to share and promote the learning. I think about articles that let you tweet a comment, articles that make it really easy for you to share what you learned. And Tim is saying, hey, this could be a lot easier in this virtual world with, Slack and Teams, that sort of thing, workplace. You can give the learners a chance to lead a lesson, absolutely. Create a pilot group and then let them sell it for you. Loved it. Matt's talking about peer champions. Excellent. Social piece worth sharing. Yeah, absolutely. And also, you might have those like influencers that you're able to identify in your company ecosystem. You might have certain champions or leaders that if you can get them to advocate for it, that's going to be a real linchpin. So that's great. Awesome. Okay, folks, we are right on time. Do you love that? We got time. We've got breakout groups organized, and Matt's gonna tell you a little bit about how you go into that breakout group. I have 10 minutes set aside for our breakout group, and then 10 minutes for us to come back and kind of share some of those ideas and things that we thought about. So as you're in your breakout group, think of what you want to share with the group. What do you all come up with that's just like, you're on fire. You want to make sure everybody hears this great idea. How many groups are we going to have roughly, Matt?
Let's see here. Right now, we are looking at, let's see. I'm just going to recreate this real quick.
Oh, and Katrina has a great point. She says, be purposeful about who is advocating and to whom for influencers. I think that's cautionary tale might be behind that. Thank you for that, Katrina.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, we are looking at roughly
Matt
10
is
rooms.
guessing. You've got 10 groups, 10 rooms?
Yeah, 10
Um,
rooms.
Okay, Matt was thinking it was 20 rooms of 4 to 5. I don't know how many people we have in here. So,
So we're going to have roughly 10 rooms
okay,
with
great.
about 3 people in each room.
Lovely. Okay,
Yep.
wonderful. So, hopefully we'll have about a minute apiece to share some real highlights. So your group might, Chris says, oops, you have 100 people in this call. Do you think something might have happened there, Matt, when you were looking at that?
Let's see here. I'm looking through. Let me refresh it.
Okay.
Let's recreate this whole thing.
Thanks for all the help out there, folks.
Yeah, seriously, guys.
we appreciate it. And we haven't even talked about what a wacky, smoky day it is out here. So it's nice to. Okay, so Andrea is saying, does it count the people using feed loop? Uh-oh. Are we not going to be able to break out everyone, maybe?
So right now it's counting everybody that is in this Zoom meeting.
Gotcha.
And if I'm looking at the participant list, let me see. I am seeing there are 96 people as of right this moment.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
So let's see, and we can come in. Valerie was saying, can we chat? Let's see. Agree with Chris and Andrea. I left feed loop and joined on Zoom here. Okay, so might people, oh, and you see 96. So we might
Yeah.
have enough here. Okay,
Mhm.
let's do it. Let's give everybody just a minute that if you're on feed loop and you're able, Katie just, thank you, Katie, just shared the Zoom link if you want to join us here on Zoom. We have 96 now. Excellent. So we might have enough folks here. Matt says, thanks for sharing the link, Katie. Do we have people adding to our, should we give them another second?
Yeah, we're going to give them another second here.
Okay.
I can see we're currently at 97 participants, 98. So we're going up.
Yeah. We'll
Making
give everybody
progress.
just a moment there.
Exactly.
And then we'll give you 10 minutes in your group. And when we come
Yeah.
back, it might just be that you're sharing in chat, and then we might have some time to ask some questions then as well. All right. I think we better go ahead and go ahead and do it. Yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
we're going to go
Here
ahead
we go.
and launch those groups. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, and in the groups, you're going to fill out your worksheet, share your ideas, jot some notes down, consider areas that you're struggling with, and then we'll come back together.
All right. Here we go, folks.
Thanks.
Okay. So let's see here.
Looks like people are joining that. You should have gotten a pop-up. It's asking you to join your breakout group.
Yeah. There's a couple people unassigned. I'm going to go ahead and assign them to groups.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
So now it looks like we just have a few people here.
Awesome. Let's see.
I got the pop-up to join, but then selected later since I can't really participate in it.
So the folks who are left here, does anyone want to join a group?
Yeah. And we can always, we can always pop into the different groups.
Is everyone able to pop into the groups?
I think.
Just
can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hey, how you doing? I got a pop up. I clicked OK and then nothing happened. So.
Can you try putting the folks here into a pop-up again, Matt? Or into a group, rather?
Yeah, I went ahead and just made sure that everybody that I'm looking at is in a group. And as of right now, everybody is in a group.
Okay, but there are a lot of people who didn't get a pop-up. Huh. Sky is saying it didn't work this morning. I'm so sorry. Well, how many people do we still have in here with us? I'm not able to see that information.
Yeah, who can hear us?
Is it
I can hear
62
you.
people?
It looks like it's 15 to 20 people still here.
Oh, 15 to 20
Wow.
people.
Okay, then maybe we should just go ahead and close the rooms and then try it one more time.
Oh, because we can't just put these folks in a group.
Well, the problem is right now when I look at the breakout rooms, hang on, let me see here. I'm moving one person to a room. Yeah, right now when I actually look at the list of people that are all in breakout rooms, I don't see anybody who's not a part of a group. So as people join, as they join our session, it'll actually let me know, say, hey, someone's unassigned. And then I automatically jump in and assign them to a group.
How about if you are joined right now, can you unjoin and then come back and Matt can assign you to a group?
Yeah,
'Cause
we
I
can always
hate
try
to-
that.
Yeah. And Greta, yes, it's necessary to run the Zoom app instead of seeing the session embedded in feed loop. Yeah. So if you try to leave the Zoom and come back, then Matt could put you.
And I've pasted the link for the Zoom meeting in the feed loop chat, so hopefully people can get to the Zoom meeting more easily.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Jeanette.
And Jessica's saying, no problem. All right, well then use this time to fill out your worksheet and just unmute your mic and tell me if you've got a musing or a challenge that you wanted to chat about, and we'll just work on it together.
Hey, Amy Lou, this is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, do you have any good ideas for environmental prompts we could use in all virtual world? My company is all virtual. I'm struggling. I love the idea of like a little reminder or something for a good new process, and then what could I possibly do?
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about the particular process that you're thinking of, or do you just want to talk about it generally?
Well, we're launching. Yeah, so we're launching a Salesforce functionality called campaigns, where you can like get a little list. You can basically like get a list or have a list pushed to you of people to call. It makes it really easy to dispose the campaign and all that. And we're pushing it out to employees who have traditionally been entirely oriented towards sitting and meeting with people. Highly paid individuals. They go, they meet with other folks, they sit down, they talk to them. They're really reluctant to kind of do the grind through this list of calls. They don't like it. They don't like the process. They're not tech savvy, and it'd be really nice to have something, like a handy. Here are the steps that you can do to do this. Here's how easy it is. Here's what your screen should look like. Something like that. But
so one thing that I wonder, and I don't know about the platform Salesforce. I know what it is, but I haven't worked in it. Sometimes you can have sort of those Blue's Clues. Things pop up within the tool itself that prompt people. And I don't know if there's that ability to put prompts really in the environment, like in the platform where they are. And if not, I think about, well, so you're talking about how can I convince them that what they feel, that there's a benefit to doing this, and that would come in sort of an awareness place.
Yes.
Yeah. So what channels do you have available to you in an all virtual world? Do you have some sort of a workplace Teams type of social intranet platform?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not as much for these guys. We do for the internal team. For the external, they don't use that as much.
Yeah. So what do they use? What are they interacting with during the day right now?
Oh, mainly the phone, a little bit of email.
So that's their connection to the company? Is it just the phone? Yep. Okay. Well, then I would think of, a text-based campaign. Is there a text channel you could use?
We could maybe use a text channel. That's something to think about. Sure.
Yeah. Or even a bot that sort of asks, that frequently asks questions. Videos can be delivered through a text channel that, if you could if you could find somebody who decided this should be done, that can talk about how they do it. If you can find some super user, somebody who's actually using this tool, and get them to talk about the benefits and what it's doing for them, that can be a way to start to get those assets that you need. But as far as how can they see marketing assets, like what channels do you have to deliver them? What about email?
Yeah. No, I like it. I like the idea of an advocate. I love the idea of text might be something to work with. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
those are good. I don't want to dominate the time either. If anyone else
Oh,
wants
okay.
to shout out.
Any other folks have some thoughts about this? Questions? Anybody
I have a
write down
question
a
about.
brilliant idea? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question about timing. This is Greta Gatsky. So I noticed that the Virtuous Circle is ongoing, and I believe the intent is to have all of these cycles happen eventually concurrently and cyclically, and for as long as your campaign is running. So is there timing that you would recommend about when to move from one phase to the next, or are there indicators that a company might use to say, okay, now I think we can start introducing advocacy after we've seen this type of action?
So actually, I don't think so, Greta. I think everything is going to be a little different. And sometimes you start with your advocate. Sometimes you start with somebody who is like, I knew we needed this, or I brought this program from another place, or I saw this lack, and this is, you start with an advocate's voice. Other times you might, start with an awareness campaign of just, some pop-ups within your Teams channel or something like that, just to get people starting to go somewhere. There's no real right way to do it, and I think it really depends on your learners. It's an excellent question. I agree, Mandy. A lot of times you need to start with some assumptions and get a few learners together and test those assumptions on them. Like, here's my idea for what I think will really resonate with you folks. What do you think about that? So you might find that they have a very different point of view. Yeah. And I think we might need to close those breakout groups. Matt, do you have that? We've spent about 10 minutes on them.
Yep, I've actually got my timer running right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and send out a broadcasted message letting people know that we have 1 minute.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
You bet.
What do you think, Greta, when you think of the campaign that you want to run? Is there a place that feels like the right place to start?
Well, that is a great question. We are looking to make a culture shift away from training as a required component of work. And we're looking to introduce more supplementary training that's not necessarily directed towards the learner. So the opportunities that we have are getting that engagement and also working at it from either a top-down or a grassroots or both. So it seems as though there are a lot of moving pieces on our end, and getting all of these components of the Virtuous Circle together, I can see how it might be a little bit haphazard if we're not looking at them from a systemic or methodical way.
It might be. And, I am a big believer in rapid prototyping and testing, and starting somewhere and getting signal from that. So while I think it's brilliant idea to have a cohesive campaign laid out, then you might just decide that you're going to start in a place and get some signal from that and build on that. And absolutely. You might be, Mandy, saying you're going to be in various parts of the circle at the same time since you have learners at various stages. I feel like it's appropriate to have these messages running concurrently, that you don't really have to sequence them necessarily. But it depends on how large your system is to some degree.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And Michelle's asking, do you have a completed sample of the worksheet you could share as an additional resource? So I don't actually, because this is almost like a notes page to me. I would lay this out as a journey map. I would lay this out very differently, but I couldn't, I like to work with really expansive sort of virtual whiteboard spaces. So I would actually lay this out as a timeline and a learner journey, and create my touch points horizontally, if that makes any sense. That's how I would do it. Yeah. So do we have folks rejoining now, Matt?
Yeah, we are all back together.
Welcome back, everyone. We had some folks that just hung out here and we chatted, but I'd love to know what kind of sessions you had, and if anybody had any great brainstorms that came up. And Mandy's talking about a spiraling curriculum in education as you meet touch point, and where you meet touch points as you cycle through. That's a really interesting visual. I love that idea, Mandy. So yeah, anybody come up with any great brainstorms?
Amy,
Yeah.
in our session, we had a good conversation about standards and having people use the same language to describe different learning, and then also being able to remind people that something has happened. If there has been a big campaign, then the excitement has worn off. Then what do you do going forward to make sure that people remember that that resource is there? And then also to make sure that everybody's sharing the same resource. So if a good template has been created by one team, then the next team doesn't have to recreate that. And then how do you educate people on that and share those resources so that people aren't having to redo things?
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Any other groups want to speak up about what they came up with? Or you can put it in chat if that's better for you. We have a couple of minutes left, so I also want to kind of open us up to any sort of Q&A, whether you're sharing your experience in your breakout group or you just had some general questions. With Helly, standardization and language are key. Yeah. The importance of categorization and filtering for the requests that come in to avoid duplication. Great. I love that. If anybody just wants to turn off their mic and see if you have any questions or input, or even an insight that we didn't touch on that you think is really important in this conversation. For software devs, get them to incorporate time for learning in their sprint schedule. Ooh, yes, sprints can be brutal and make you feel like you don't have anything left. So I love that. It's really great. TJ was talking about awareness, had similar themes of making people aware of a resource. Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Shout out to Jessica from Michigan. So great to chat. Excellent. Talking about individual learning solutions, how would you approach learning a full curriculum? I would approach it absolutely the same way. I mean, I rarely work in single e-learns. Usually it's part of a larger learning ecosystem. And I think that while you can tease out certain parts of those learning products, like a blended learning product, you could tease out or champion at different points, oh, make sure you go to the coaching sessions. They're really great. Or big shout out to the team activities that are part of this, that kind of messaging. Certainly this same approach works for larger learning ecosystems. And Julie's saying promoting things that link to the employee cycle. Yeah, rhythm of business. Absolutely. That gives you a great chance to point people toward relevant resources or experiences. Making the individual parts promotion pieces while marketing the full curriculum. Yeah, and little mini bits of the curriculum can be marketing pieces. Maybe that's what you're saying, Jennifer. But I think marketing, I I don't like to use the word marketing, and I'm, you know, promoting the resources that are there. Sometimes I use promote a little bit more, but sometimes part of that is like trivia that you're pushing out or bits of reinforcement that you're using. So I want to be mindful of our time. We're at the end of our session. Tell us more about why marketing over promotion. That might be my personal preference. I feel like marketing can come off as sort of like a manipulative word. So I think that for me, that is just my own personal preference. So I think, you know, creating awareness, engagement, those words really appeal to me a lot more. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everyone. This has been really fascinating conversation, and I appreciate your time. And I look forward to getting together in person with all you lovely folks sometime. All right. Awesome. Thank you.